Okay, well, last week we had the snow day, ice day, whatever it was. And 2 weeks ago we were talking about chapter 13, instance management. Some things I want to point out here I couldn't show before is this let me run it SQL Plus console type way of working with the database. If I type for the username system and then happy1234, then that takes me into SQL Plus. Um, Now, right here, this is how to connect as a privileged user using operating system authentication. So you connect slash as sysdba, and that'll connect you. Then at this point, a lot of these items you can query. You can query them over on the SQL developer also. But since we've spent so much time on there, I'll spend some time in here. Select dbms underscore xdb. Get HTTP port from dual. Yeah, dual. Semicolon is how you end that. And got to type something wrong. Get HTTP port from dual. That's interesting. Okay, so if I run that here, you see we get the HTTP port associated with that. Now, this is not a default one that comes up. I must not have figured quite correct. I'm not sure why this didn't come. Oh, there it finally came. Boy, that was a bit of a pause. So all these ones I referred to before, you can do from within here. So if you want to take your listener and start it, then you can do that. Let's see. Execute dbms. So if you want that the HTTP port to go through that, then you can change it. This sets it. Then this would get it and shows you changed it. Wish that wasn't a picture and I could actually copy it. Execute dbms underscore xdb underscore config dot set HTTP port 5500. Port conflicts in XDB configuration file. One of it's because I got something already set for 5500, probably. So I'd have to go fix that, and then if I want to actually use 5500. Let's see. Who am I? Just got to go on SQL Plus. Create Okay, here probably a fairly safe one. Select name value from VM score parameter, order by name. Order by name. This will go quite a while. If I did it over here, a little bit easier, you can browse through it. These are all the different parameters you can set for your Oracle installation. So if you're having trouble with bitmaps and you went out and read some kind of form, some kind of post says that you need to update this amount, then that would guide you to what you need to do. If you're trying to use cluster databases, it could be you read some kind of form that should be true. So again, those are parameters you can change. 432 parameters. Looks like. Can alter your system, changing one of them. Set SGA max underscore size, HG scope equals SP file, alter system, set max size HG, scope SP file. Here's your enterprise manager. That allow you to go in and see the parameters and so forth. Basic parameters. If you didn't want to look at all of them, but you just wanted to look at maybe the relevant ones to, not the obscure ones, you never use, but the ones used on a regular basis. Then you can put where is basic equals true, and then the rest would be the same. Just like there would be no need for a cluster database on a personal edition like this. Okay. Here's one, number 5, change the NLS language parameter for your session. Choose whatever mainstream language you want. Oracle supports 67. French. Session mode V. That's French. Those don't look French, but then again, maybe they're just the same for. Take that back to English. So again, different things you can set. Although we have We have a nice GUI for it that you've seen me do over and over as I was trying to fix my problem a couple weeks ago. You can do all this via the console mode. Why would you want console mode? I mentioned this. If you have a GUI, that opens up ports, opens up places you can be hacked into. By having console, less is open. It's less complex. It's not as easy to hack into. If your database is somehow connected or could be accessed from outside the organization, you don't have any kind of process in the middle that intercepts the queries. That does have the security to get access to the Oracle, and somehow the user goes in there directly, then it could be that you'd want the console. Luckily, the Oracle I worked with at IFR was a Windows, or it was had a nice GUI front end because it was just local and local to our company. Nobody from outside the company could ever access the database. Doesn't mean we didn't redirect it. Like you'd take the request in, and then you'd have another process that had the security to go access database. Okay, that talks more about that. Either sysdba or sysoperator is needed to perform a startup or shutdown. This talks about the different states that your database can be in. So we'll sit there and read that to you. We've already kind of gone over that with the GUI. Now this selects from DBA objects. We're going to see something about this. So we have to spell it. Lots of DBA objects. Notice here they're looking very specific for ones that have the object name like, and then that right there. The idea there is that you only bring in just a few of them. I might kill that. Think. There's just too many. And you've seen that when over in the regular Oracle, how many that we had come up. Where object name like the percent instance. I didn't like something there. Where object name like b underscore instance. Must have some left over. Then it just brings up those ones that match that wild card. Okay. That's all of chapter 13. We'd already been going through chapter 13, so I just wanted to go back and show that you can, if your Oracle's running, go through SQL Plus and access that, or SQL Developer. Chapter 14 is about Oracle networking. Oracle Net is the enabling technology for Oracle's client-server architecture as a mechanism for establishing sessions against a database instance. Several tools can be used for setting up and administering Oracle.net, although it can be done with nothing more than a simple text editor. The end result is a set of files of a controlled process, database listener, that launches server processes in response to connection requests and defines a means by which a user process will locate the listener. A lot of this is geared around multiple users. How do you set up your database so that you can have multiple people accessing at the same time? You don't have all these same issues when you're talking about access, for example. If you're talking about the personal edition we're using, where we got one user, it's not as big of a deal. It says there are many layers between the user and database. In the user environment, no user ever has direct access to the database, nor does the process that the user is running. Client server architecture guarantees that all access data is controlled by the server. That kind of makes sense. You got your data down here. No user actually goes and accesses that directly. Maybe a hacker, but probably not. Just because the way this is set up. Okay. Now here is where you can establish a session against an instance. There's a database username, that's Scott. Database password, Tiger. No, say which is case sensitive. And the two are separated by a delimiter /. Then there's an @ symbol followed by a connect string, Oracle 12c. Now, if you wanted to create a database listener, it's defined a listener is defined as in a file, listener or a file, whose default locations is in the Oracle _home /network/admin directory. At a minimum, the listener.ora file must include a section for one listener that states its name, protocol, and listening address it will use. You can configure several listeners in one file, but they must have all different names and addresses. And this shows you an example of that. First section of this file defines a listener called listener, all uppercase, monitoring local host name on default port 1521. Second section defines another listener called list2. Listener is a monitoring port 1522 on both the host name address and loopback address. Says to create a listener, you need to do nothing more than create an entry in the listener Aura file and then start it. Under Windows, the listener will run as a Windows service, but there's no need to create the server explicitly. It will be created implicitly the first time the listener start. From then on, if you want, it can be started and stopped like any other Windows service. I think we saw that over here. Oracle Instance Manager. choose new. So here's where we can create a instance. I thought we could do listeners here too, but maybe we're wrong. Let's see, shirts or some of these we don't have. Okay, here's a Net Manager. To launch a Net Manager, run Net Manager from a Unix prompt. On Windows, you'll find a Start menu. The Net Manager navigation tree has 3 branches. Profile branch creates or edits the SQLnet.org as user set options may apply to both the client and server side as Oracle. So we got our profile there. And let's see, general. See, some of these aren't set at all. But if your connection was timing out, then this is where you could change that. There's a math package that's called. All of them have timeouts to them, and you have to figure out what makes most sense for your particular installation. But there's a math homework package called Alex, and Alex has probably the shortest timeout of any of mine I've seen. If you leave it for like 10 minutes, it'll time out by default. You can change it, but so all of these have ways of timing it out, and that helps keep the connections clear. So if you don't get any connections that's kind of hung up and aren't going away, then you can time it out. So lots of different options you can set on that. SSL for client. So if you want to configure the SSL, you can do that. See if I remember what SSL stands for. Security socket layer. Not even close. No, it's not that. No. Secure sockets layer. Okay. A lot of that's geared around all setting up the encryption, keys, and so forth. Now here we had, I think I created 2 listeners last time, or 2 times ago. You can definitely do that via that utility. TNS_admin environment variable, configuring Oracle Net manually or through the graphical tools consists nothing more than creating, editing these three text files. TNSnames.or, SQLnet.or, and listener.or. Where these reside, default location is $Oracle Home Network Admin or Oracle Home Network Admin. If I type in path, when I type some kind of command here, some kind of executable, something, this is where it goes and looks for that file. So, see, like here, I got c:app Oracle DB Home XE/bin. Quite a few executables. I see SQL Plus is there. Disk monitor. What disk monitor is. Help. Help spelled out. Nothing. XML / help. No, it doesn't like any of those. It's XML. Dash help. So disk monitor dash help. No, it doesn't like that at all. Some of them, every program is different in this regard, will have a help capability. This case looks like I just type XML and gives this, but it also has -H here, shows this usage help. So if you're trying to figure out how to use that program, this is as much documentation as you get from the actual program on your computer. Okay, we already kind of looked at that with my issue. That's probably it for 14. Oracle storage. Users never see a physical data file. All these are logical segments. System administrators never see a logical segment. All they see are physical data files. The Oracle database provides complete abstraction of logical storage from physical. Um, complete abstraction means you can't see it, basically. A little bit more than that, but this is one requirement of the relational database paradigm. As database administrator, DBA, you must be aware of the relationship between logical and physical storage, monitoring and administering these structures. A task often described as space management used to be a huge part of the DBA's workload. The facilities provided in recent releases of the database can automate space management to a certain extent. They can certainly let the DBA set up storage in a way that will reduce the maintenance workload considerably. Used to be if you didn't, or even if you did estimate it correctly, but later on your needs changed and you needed more space, it had to be allocated manually. So there was no physical, or there was no process that did it for you. It had to physically be done. This isn't sitting there and specifying it. At the lowest level, rows are stored in blocks, but there are several layers of storage above that, all of which must be understood before drilling down the level of the row and block. Start top, work down. Okay, so we got of course, our data file over here, physical view, and then we got our table space, segment, extent, Oracle block, and then these both tied to the operating system block. There were some times when they had to change the memory allocated where they could be done pretty easily. And then there was other ones where they had to, if I remember right, that shut down the instances so they could do the maintenance. Now this is interesting here. There is one relationship known as dotted line. This here. This relationship is there are many. There is a many-to-many relationship between segments and data files. So we got our segment and our data files here. And this relationship is dotted because it shouldn't be there. As good relational engineers, DBAs do not permit many-to-many relationships. Resolving this relationship into a normalized structure is what storage model is all about. So yeah, many-to-many would imply that for one data file, you could have many segments. It also goes the other way. For one segment, it could be on many different data files. So that's what they're referring to. If you think about tracks on if you have an old hard drive with the platters and so forth, if you think about where your data is stored, it could be stored on separate parts of that hard drive. So it doesn't have to be in the one place. Kind of the same idea exists here with the default setup. Table space entity resolves the many-to-many relationship between segments and data files. One table space can contain many segments, be made of many data files. This means that one segment may be spread across multiple data files, and any one data file may contain all or part of many segments. This solves many storage challenges. Let's see. Select segment, type, count from DBA segments. Not sure if this will work on our personal edition, but we'll see. Order by segment type. Select is not recognized as internal or external. Oh, I'm not even in. There it is. Okay, and brief and order they're most likely to concern a DBA. These segment types are as follows. Table. These are heap structured table. That's a type of storage. Heap allows you to perform certain transactions more efficiently. If you go on to take a data structures class, there's like heap sort. I'm not sure if there's a heap search. Definitely heap sort. But they consist of variable length rows in random order, even though a typical segment is a table segment. Never forget the table is not a segment, and that there are more complex table organizations that use other segment types. Indexes, sorted list of key values, each with a pointer, the row ID of the physical location of the row. Row ID specifies which Oracle block of which data file the row is in, as well as the row number within the block. Type 2 undo, these are the undo segments. Table partition, table can be divided into many partitions. If this is done, then the partitions will be individual segments, and the table itself will not be a segment at all. It exists only as a total of its partitions. Index partition. Segments should not be used normal running from release 9i onward. Release 9i induced automatic undo management. Something goes wrong. How do you roll back? Okay. I'm going to have you do exercise 15.1. That's one of the things. And we'll see how far. Got to finish class a little bit early today, about 6 minutes or 6 minutes from now. Got a presentation to give at 3, so I need to go use the facilities real quick and then finish getting ready for that. And okay. Now this is talking about table spaces, repositories for schema data, including the data dictionary. All databases must have a system table space and a system auxiliary table space, as well as for practical purposes, temporary table space and undo table space. These 4 will usually have been created when databases are created. Subsequently, the DBA may create many more table spaces for user data and possible additional table spaces for undo and temporary. It's kind of an art when you're, as I understand it, I never worked as a full-time DBA, but it's kind of an art as you're sitting there monitoring the database usages, locating potential problems. You have to keep modifying these items. on your own computer. This tells you how much free use space you have and how much free space you have. 529 gigabyte. I have quite a few free space. But if that becomes a lot less, then I might have issues. I have a student, I told him to get online. I was going to look at it because they were finding that they had, what did they say, 30 gigabyte of free space. And the program was telling them they didn't have enough space. And the program they were trying to install should not have given that error. It wasn't that intensive a program. But as this becomes less and less your free space, then you'll find your system will have more and more trouble. It uses different types of structures to manage the performance. Um, they got something called a page file. Page file in Windows 10 is a hidden system file with a .sys extension that is stored in the computer system drive. Page file allows the computer to perform smoothly by reducing the workload of the physical memory or RAM. Maybe there's some things that you don't necessarily need to have on RAM because you don't need to have that instant access. And so it'd be overkill to put it on there. Yet you don't want to put it like on a hard drive of some sort. So they have a temporary location that you can use. That's the way I think of it. Simply put, every time you run more applications than RAM on your PC can accommodate, programs already present in RAM are automatically transferred to the page file. Process technically called paging, because the page file works as a secondary RAM. Many times is also referred to as virtual memory. If you got processes and so forth, again, you can't put it all in RAM, or you don't want to, just because it just doesn't make sense. You wouldn't want to put those applications running off of a hard drive. That'd be horrible. You like that fast performance. And so the alternative to that, and I know it seems weird because you don't want to put it on a hard drive, so you create a file on your hard drive that you use for handling of the memory. Now that's about as much as I know about page files, but I do know they do help. Probably not so much if you just like go into one application, don't have a whole lot of processes running on your PC or so forth, but some power users really do use that. So again, all these are settings that they can choose. It shows you how to create a table space. I'm not going to have you do that. It's just going to give you an example here. Okay. Now for this one though, let me see if there's anything. Yeah, I'm going to have you do exercise 15.2 also. Well, we're going to go ahead and stop there. Like I say, I need to go use the facilities before I present, and then get everything loaded on that. So have a good afternoon, and I'll see you next class.